Hey everyone, Joseph Onesta here, type 2 mentor, not a doctor, no medical advice here. And even if I were a doctor, I couldn't give you medical advice through a video. And I'm not a doctor. So I'm a clinical hypnotist in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a guy who's reversed his own type 2 diabetes and lost 100 pounds in the process, and just trying to help other people do the same thing. Anyway, so this is video 3. This is episode 3 of the medical gaslighting series. And I want to ask you a question that, of course, I can't see what your answer is, but has your doctor ever looked at you and said, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. I don't think so. I mean, I've never heard of a doctor saying that. I've heard of doctors saying things like, I've tried everything. And then they refer their patient to a specialist. Or I've heard of doctors saying things like, it's all in your head. Or let's put it down to stress. And then write a prescription for an anti-anxiety medication. Let's try this. And I love when a doctor will say, well, let's try this. And so when we're talking about gaslighting, and again, I do think that the word gaslighting is too strong, but people are using it. And so, I don't know, clickbait, you know. But here's the thing about this attitude of I should know everything, and I don't. There's a famous story of a famous medical instructor in a college who said, I can't remember his name, who said on the graduation day, after all of the new doctors had been sworn in as doctors, they take an oath, they swear, they promise not to do any harm. Anyway, so he said, now I have a confession to make, or something like this. He said, I have a confession to make. At least 50% of what we have taught you is wrong. And the bigger problem is we don't know which half. And so when Ansel Keys made his hypothesis for the heart health hypothesis, where he proposed that dietary fat was responsible for heart disease, and it isn't. It was a hypothesis. And some people jumped on the bandwagon because it made sense. He actually adjusted his research results to fit his theory. And we believed it, and people who contradicted him got sidelined. So they were quiet about it. They didn't start off quiet, but when they realized that their jobs were in danger, they just shut up. And so that's another one. But we're really going to talk about a doctor who's willing to say, I don't know. And when they say it's all in your head, that doesn't mean it's not real. Just because something is happening, even if it is in your head, everything you experience goes through your head. I'm a hypnotist. I'm telling you that's true. You cannot experience anything if it doesn't pass through your head. But it may not start there. So when a doctor says something like that or refers you to a specialist, what you need to understand is the doctor, I don't know if they teach them never to admit that they were wrong, mostly because of insurance, or never to admit that they don't know. We're just going to try something else. We're just going to try something else. This is a kind of gaslighting where you're looking for answers and they don't have them. And I would love, I would love to hear of a doctor who just looks and says, I don't, I'm baffled. I'm sure it happens, but it hasn't happened in my experience, and it hasn't happened at least in the stories that were related to me. So when you're sitting in your doctor's office, you're up on that exam table, and the doctor is, asking you questions or poking you or doing whatever and you're trying to tell the doctor the reason my blood glucose, my A1C is normal is because I've been doing X, Y, and Z. And the doctor just nods and doesn't acknowledge it and doesn't say, oh, that's really interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. There's a reason for that. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It might be ego, but it might also be lawyers saying, don't say things like that because then you might get sued. Or it could just be insurance companies who are saying, these are the protocols we want you to follow. And if you don't follow them, and I've heard this from doctors who have left the insurance world, who've gone cash only, and it's like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore because they're getting mad at me. This I they're getting mad at me for taking people off their medications, and they're fine. So I don't know why it exists, but it's a kind of gaslighting that seems almost institutionalized, where we're not going to admit we were wrong. We're not going to admit that we don't know. We're not going to admit that we'll say things like the research is conflicting. And it's like, okay, but when a patient is in a condition and needs answers or wants answers, empty answers are useless. And I'll tell you, out of all of them, when a doctor says it's all in your head, and I've had clients come to me for a whole host of things that it's all in your head, but they're all related to diet. They're all related to a condition called hyperinsulinemia, or in other words, insulin resistance. The two have a kind of chicken and egg relationship. And so I find myself working with them in hypnosis, but also talking to them about their diet. And doctors just that they don't get this. They don't get nutrition education in medical school. They got too much to learn. So they refer to the nutritionists, right? But a lot of nutritionists also follow the standard American diet, SAD. That's so sad because it's causing the problem. You don't have to believe me. I'm not even offering you advice. What I'm saying is pay attention, research, learn for yourselves. Joseph Onesta, Type 2 mentor. Thanks for spending the time with me.